Good morning to you, Lagos, and thank you very much for staying with us here on Smooth 98.1. If you hear the shuffle of papers, you know it's time for us to go through the detailed analysis of our newspaper stories this morning. And this is part of Smooth Breakfast with Ayo.
And Valentine.
And on Freshly Pressed 981, we encourage you to send in your comments and observations on the story, as you did yesterday. Please send it to 0809 444 That is our WhatsApp number. That number again is
0809
And joining us this morning, we have a wonderful gentleman who's been here on Freshly Pressed 91 a while back, and he decided to remember us and just join us in 2019. And we're welcoming Nnamdi Awa-Kalu into the studio this morning.
Hello, new year, new me.
That vibration.
Welcome back, Nnamdi.
Well done. Well done. It's good for this weather. And welcome Devoe Okorie. Good morning, Devoe.
I think I should have said that, but anyhow.
Welcome, Devoe.
No, I'm talking about what Valentine just said.
Oh, yes?
But, welcome Lagos. Eku, legal palava, na wahala.
Alright, so as our usual tradition, we'll take you through the first set of stories. Keep your messages coming in as you hear the stories being analyzed. Send them to WhatsApp again. Remember that number 0809 So our first story is from the Punch newspaper this morning. Still talking about the minimum wage, but it seems as though we have come to the end of it, a conclusive end. This one came as a surprise to a lot of people as the House of Representatives approved the sum of 30,000 naira as the new national minimum wage. We recall that the Governors Forum were suggesting 22,000 naira, and then they were forced to raise their margin to 27,000, which the NLC vehemently rejected, and they got back to the House to deliberate. So they presented to the House of Representatives and the Senate. They have unanimously decided, well, it's 30,000 naira, since that's what you told the general public after the tripartite committee met. Well, what are your thoughts, Devoe?
Well, this has been a lot of, what I call it, political gymnastics to try and get to this point. We always knew at some point, since the NLC had threatened with a strike, and also said that whoever does not support them will not get their vote, and they do make up a major proportion of the civil service and have the buy-in of a lot of Nigerians, that the politicians would have found one way to, to guide this this request. However, now that the presidency through the state council has assented to 27,000, the reps received it and signed in 30,000. Now it came with some provisos in terms of a stiff non-compliance penalty,
Yes.
which was 5,000 naira per day before for any employer who would not comply with it. So they raised it to 75,000
Per day?
per day.
So for every single time during the period that the
cannot
case
be paid.
was presented, exactly.
Yes. So this is them saying that it is something that they're fully backing, and every government employee between federal and state must abide. Now they've also said that because they've raised the salary for civil servants, especially at the minimum level, they now fall into the tax net, as unlike before. So their tax net implications, maybe that's why they decided to make it 30. That 3,000 could have been chipped off for tax. Now you see, it's not so much about what has been agreed; it's what is going to be paid eventually.
Yeah.
So now we need to start discussing appropriation. Was this put into the new budget? Question one. Question two, when will it commence? At what point would these changes by the House begin to hold sway? Secondly, where are the funds going to come from? At this point in time, nobody's discussing budget because of the elections. Two, the socio-economic implications. For every increase in salary, there's a direct increase in inflation. Likewise,
Or it directly affected the price of goods and
yes,
services.
the services in the market. Two, the government is overbloated. I mean, we just continue burying ourselves even further in the ground. We have a larger government than the services or than the size that we have and can cope with. Nobody has answered that question, because at the end of the day, remember, it's not just the minimum wage earners that are getting an increase. It's increased commensurately all the way up. And already, the easy decision that they could have taken by slicing down the size of appointed officers and then senior officers, they didn't take it. So let's see how it goes.
All right, let's move on to the next story.
Our next story is from the Premium Times, and that is, despite controversy, Nigeria approves first genetically modified crop. The Nigerian government has approved for use its first GMO crop, the pod borer-resistant cowpea, popularly called beans. Now, if you recall, for about 10 years now, research has gone into this, and a number of benefits have been highlighted, with many religious, cultural groups approached to push this agenda, and finally it has been approved by the Nigerian government. Nnamdi, what's your take on this?
Well, I think we have to consider that they claim that for a long time this product has been in development,
Yeah.
and they have also reported that the crop is safe, poses no harm to humans and the environment. It's been developed by the Institute for Agricultural Research at the Ahmadu Bello University's area, and for the sake of the fact that we have approved our first GMO crop,
Yeah.
we must have to record that as some kind of achievement. However, GMO crops have been controversial all around.
Yes,
Yes.
they have.
You can only imagine that the same thing is going to happen in Nigeria, especially knowing the way we manage things here.
And
But
fear and resistance to change normally
Exactly.
as Nigerians.
exactly,
I think apart from that, it's important to highlight some of the benefits of that have been promised. So some of them include improved nutrition, reduced pesticide use, new farm jobs, significant cost savings. The fact that Nigeria is the highest producer of beans, and also one of the highest consumers of beans, because it's called the poor man's food, as with regards to its cheap source of protein for those
Yeah.
who cannot afford
yeah,
it.
and the thing is, there's also clear indications in the story that the introduction will address the demand deficit for cowpeas in the country of
Yeah.
about 500,000 tons,
Mhm.
and improve national productivity average of 350 kilograms per hectare. However, you do have to wonder whether these figures aren't just speculative, because at this point the crop has just been approved.
Yeah.
We still have to go into production phase, and we have to
Yeah.
see how it turns out over the years. So
Well, they've worked on it for 10 years, but like you
Development
mentioned, yes,
of the
development.
crop, that's a completely different thing from scaling it to production and all of
Yes,
that.
absolutely.
I also believe that one of other advantage it has over the regular crops, or modifications over the other crops, is the fact that it's equipped with capabilities to withstand environmental pressures.
That's very important.
Yes, changing atmospheric pressure and all those things that affect the crop growth. And based on the fact that most recently we've seen a widespread use of insecticides, being proliferated, in preserving the crops themselves, especially beans, as a
Yeah.
case in point, and that has led to poisoning in most quarters. A lot of people have been complaining about poisoned beans being,
I
spread
think
around.
the big question would be, would you eat the
Yeah.
GMO beans?
Well, many of you have spoken on the side of the GMO. There's a huge debate against it
Against it.
because
Please.
of basically how the crop has a way of making you dependent. You still have to buy from M. Santo and continue buying from them. That it also has a way of killing off other organically generated goods. Well, the federal government is now approving it. So I hope it will not be abused. That's all I say.
All right. We have a
Thanks a
message in from MI from Akoka on WhatsApp. It says the lawmakers can do all the right things, but regarding the new minimum wage, it depends largely on the ability and willingness to pay, which makes an effective demand as stated in economics. Yes, we're looking forward to the implementation of this. And then we have this message in from Ali from Apapa. It says, what are you guys saying? GMO is dangerous to human health.
Oh,
It isn't a good idea at all, as I said. And of course, we see, that's why we're asking all these questions, really, the pros and cons of it. Kingsley from Igbo Eleni says, the people calling for the Chief of Justice to step down. Sorry, we're not taking the story today. But let's move on to this next one. Dogara formally announces defection to PDP. That's what the story of the New Telegraph is carrying, and it's appeared on some other papers this morning. Yakubu Dogara, the Honorable Yakubu Dogara, who's the Speaker of the House of Representatives, formally announced his defection from the ruling APC to the opposition PDP. And this is, if I'm not wrong, about the third time we've heard this back and forth. Well, the first two last times, really, he didn't formally announce it, which is why they're using that clause to describe this present announcement. But take us through that.
yes, he only made what they call an appearance. Maybe he had some friends in the PDP that he was missing.
I just saw him on the rally.
So this is let me reword this headline as carpet crossing 101. Timing. You need to know when to make the move. So we've seen a host of key officials making their carpet crossing jump across to the opposition, where they once came from, at this tail end, starting with the Senate President. Now the Speaker has also made his own declaration, and at the point of making this declaration, almost like a Saraki case, they also adjourned their own House. So the House has been adjourned to the 19th, and we know that we're less than 3 weeks to the election. So that means that by the time we're resuming, there will be a new change in the game. However, now this is not news because we've known this already. They had made the intentions known before now. But the ideal is that the Speaker and the head of the Senate come from the majority party. So that's the contention that the APC has been having, that those who have carpet crossed don't have any right, again, to bear those positions. But this will not be debated until the members come back.
February 19th.
February 19th.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, just to weigh in on that, I think a lot of this carpet crossing comes from the fact that what most people don't know, that legally, party is sacrosanct in Nigerian politics. So when you go to the polls, you're voting for the party and not for the personality. And eventually, I mean, that has influenced a lot of decisions in the Supreme Court arising from election petitions, including the famous substitution saga in River State with Rotimi Chibuike some years back. And I think that perhaps the best way to go around this is to maybe at some point really try to study exactly whether that is the best system for Nigeria, whether the party should remain.
This has been debated a number of times.
Should retain primacy, yeah. So I just thought it's just something to mention. But apart from that, I think this has been coming. Dogara has been meaning to carpet cross, as you would put it.
Yes.
It's no surprise.
We're not expecting this decision on unresolved issues that he has with the ruling party. But anyway.
Right, moving away from Dogara's cross-carpeting 101, we go on to the Vanguard newspaper, where it's reported that Nigeria loses 197 billion naira to financial services fraud annually. And this statement is from the Vice President, Professor Osibanjo, who made this observation yesterday at the Stakeholders Forum on Financial Fraud using telecoms platform organized by NCC. Now, he said that the development in the nation's telecom sector attracted new dangers because fraudsters have also infiltrated the system to compromise telecom platforms. Nnamdi.
Yes, so financial services fraud, we're not new to this. 419 advance fees fraud is all in the same bracket. Something that Nigeria unfortunately is notorious for all over. But the danger that Professor Osibanjo is reporting now is that with the advance of technology and the improvements in the telecoms industry, there are more opportunities for people to perpetrate financial services fraud. So they're speaking, for instance, of card swaps, customer identity theft, BVN snatching. So this is so interesting. I was speaking to somebody I knew in the financial services industry maybe about a week ago, and he talked about the ease with which you could get somebody else's BVN number if you so chose. So it's just a simple case of bringing somebody you know on the inside of the bank, letting them know a couple of interesting details about a person, and they find you.
But shouldn't there be direct consequences that should be enforced more than it is already now? Because we know there are existing punishments that come down from the superior body who governs the CBN, really, on the banking operations. But shouldn't there be stringent measures to curb this? Yeah,
the thing is, enforcement is tough because we're talking about digital platforms. We're talking about anonymity that people can gain from operating behind the shadows when you're online on your keyboard. We already know how difficult it is to monitor and regulate social media. It's the same sort of thing in the financial services industry right now because of the technology that props it up. I mean, we're talking in this story, there's reports about cryptocurrency being unregulated in Nigeria and some people taking advantage of it. However, the question is, it's been unregulated because we don't have enough, on the one hand, data about people's financial behaviors. On the other hand, there isn't enough financial literacy in the system. Just generally, it's a very hard ask to enforce some of the crimes and wrongdoings in that particular sector.
I ask that particular question, Nnamdi, because I'm very concerned with the fact that we need to advance faster than we're already advancing in terms of appreciating the dividends or the merits of living in a cashless society and doing business within it. because it took us a long time to adapt to that change.
We
And
haven't
there's
even
still
fully adapted
exactly,
to it.
and there's
these
still
are-
some large apathy in the minds of especially friends and family who live in rural areas to making sure that they embrace this
Yes,
cashless
yes.
society.
Yeah, they are talking about 80% inclusion in mobile money services at a certain point. But as of yesterday, my ATM card was swallowed at a machine.
Wow.
This is constant. But sometimes you can't
It
use it.
happens in a number of times. You're not. There's
So
no
many structural
guarantee,
problems.
yes, and
So many
security of
structural
your
problems
details.
that are restricting progress in that sector.
All right, thank you very much, Nnamdi. Let's move on to this next story from Punch newspaper. FG, federal government, EFCC, begin tracking of vessels lifting Nigeria's crude. So according to this story, every barrel of crude oil produced and exported out of Nigeria is being tracked by the federal government in collaboration with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. And this is a statement that was declared by the Minister for State for Petroleum Resources, Ibe Kachuku. He made this announcement yesterday and said that EFCC and the federal government recently commenced this tracking, and it's meant to help curb the proliferation or probably just illegal haulage of this all across the shores of Nigeria. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, Nigeria waking up from the Stone Ages once again. For an industry as advanced as the oil sector, you'd be shocked that it's just now that the vessels are being tracked. Come on. We've had shipping position ongoing for a long while. So how come cargo ships were being tracked, but the oil tankers were not being? I mean, that's a question that needs to be answered. However, he said now it's taking place in conjunction with the EFCC. And my position is that it should be a matter of standard operation and reporting and not a financial investigation. What is the EFCC's point? If such vessels are having an operational protocol of stating their movement, their navigational equipment, even their apps that track airplanes, Nigeria, please, please, please stop this. Nobody's fooled. However, in the second part of the article, Kachuku responded to allegations. The House of Reps wants to investigate him on about 1.5 billion raised from oil licenses that are coming up in 2021. Kachuku stated confidently that he was looking forward to it, and that he had nothing to hide. That when they resumed service in 2015, there wasn't enough funds to pay salaries and take care of some operations. That instead of taking loans like some other federal government ministries did, that they looked inward and they found a way of proactively starting commencing the oil renewal licenses ahead of the 2021 date.
Yes.
And it had taken place properly and transparently, and that had raised about between 1.3 to 1.5 billion dollars for that initiative. So he was stating that he can explain this any day, any time. My question is, I hope that this money is being tracked. Oversight functions from the House should maintain to ensure that those monies that were raised go into the right quarters.
All right. So my worry, the only worry I have, or maybe it's just a question, because I was wondering in this story, I was looking forward to maybe seeing this guy's name here, this man's name, Dr. Daku Computer Science, who is the NIMASA director. Really, I mean, isn't it part of the oversight functions for the Nigerian Maritime Administration and the safety agency to weigh in on this matter as well?
You know, like I said, a lot of questions were not answered. It's almost like smacking us on the back, telling us that we just have tracking capacity available at this point in time. That's why I said it should have, that operation, that NIMASA operation should have been there. Now remember, NIMASA handles the Nigerian aspect of it.
Yes.
It's a joint venture. So this is the federal government saying that we have the capacity as a country. I'm sure the majors have always been able to track their vessels.
Yes.
They're always aware of the positions, and even if they're operations that go beyond the duty, it's in collusion. So it's not today that it started. This is part of the corruption index that we're talking about.
Yeah. So okay.
I mean, just to follow up on what he's saying, as far as I know, every single ship on international waters has a number. There is a system, international system monitoring them. So when they're talking about tracking vessels, I need to understand exactly what they mean by tracking them. Do they mean putting trackers
Physical
on
tracker on the
barrels?
vehicles themselves?
So I don't know, because as Devoe has mentioned, you can only imagine that these systems have been in place worldwide for a long time. And we need to understand exactly what EFCC has to do with.
All right, so we have this message from Andrew. Andrew says, well, EFCC has no business tracking vessels. It is the sole business of NIMASA. Same question we're raising here. Yinka says, you are in this country and your ATM card has not been swallowed for no reason at the teller machine. Are you sure you're a true Nigerian if that hasn't happened to you? And then, okay, please add your names to your messages. NSE says, Devoe though, at a cool legal palaver. Good morning. This country should have just been should just be forgotten in God's hands. The things we see and hear our leaders do, amazing. Great job, you guys. Thank you very much.
God bless Nigeria.
And Simon says, when the government imposed policy inflicted price increases on Nigerians, especially the poor, through their 2016 forex maneuvers, how did they compensate the low-income earners? These guys are suffering. If any state isn't able to pay, please merge. Governors should go and work. That's their own self. And sends in this message, says, on the GMO beans approval, so why did they have to quickly approve before elections? Anyways, they should make sure that the GMO crops are properly identified when they hit the shops and markets, so consumers can make their choice. People should not package GMO as organic or very, very important.
And you know, like we always say with many agencies in Nigeria, it's about enforcement, it's about people taking responsibility and you know, work being done. Because at the end of the day, people should have the right to choose
and to know.
Yes, and to know.
So proper tagging is important.
Yes.
The next story is from Punch newspaper. 14.3 million Nigerians abuse cocaine, tramadol, others, is a publication or a report from the federal government. And according to this story, Devoe, they said that they've tracked down this number of people. We've heard this story before, but then the number seems to be on the rise according to the statistic. But take us through the story, seeing that the project was supported by the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime and the European Union that carried out and sponsored this project.
Yes, facilitated by the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. So it comes down to about 15% of the population on a, for the lack of a better term, codeine diets.
Wow.
Now this is a 2018 figure, and we appreciate the United Nations Office and also the EU for the support in this, because sometimes it is a matter of actually knowing the extent of the damage that's being done before we start taking actions towards them. Now, what they're saying is that 15% of the population, that's about 14.3 million people, have been abusing drugs in one form or the other. Now, we'll break it down a bit. 10.6 million are abusing cannabis. We know that as Mary Jane, that's marijuana. 4.6 million on opioids, that's tramadol, paracetamol, and all the oils that are being abused regularly in the markets. And then 2.4 on cough syrup, that's the AKA codeine. Yes. Now, and about 100,000 short or abusing cocaine. Now, funny enough, in terms of where this is affected, the Southwest actually has the highest numbers, affected about 4.3 million, followed by the South-South, and then the Southeast. So before, there was this impression that it was the North that was actually high on the diet. So breaking news, Southerners, you guys are really on a high level.
And Lagos is part of that.
I was going to say that, Devoe, don't say you guys. You're part of
Lagos.
Am I Southern?
It doesn't matter.
My name is
your
Hassan.
location
Or
and
in the Southwest.
I mean, it's definitely a serious issue.
Yes, it is a serious matter. And the crux of this matter is, how do we tackle this? Because do we take it from a legal point of view in terms of breakdown of law and order? Is it really a legal matter? Or is it a social matter whereby we're looking at the mental and psychological state of Nigerians and why they're being pushed into this? Or do we take it from an economic point of view? I mean, it's a serious issue that the foreigners cannot really do beyond helping us with the facts. We have to look inwards and find what are the reasons causing this uprise in drug abuse, and how can they plug some of the channels. If you remember the famous story that went on BBC regarding the codeine diet abuse, and how at that point NDLA and some other bodies started fishing out some of the companies that were creating this havoc.
Yeah, but it seems as though, Devoe, that we're paying lip service to this issue, because this story has come up several times, especially in the later part of last year, and it seems like it appears in the news. There's a little conference here and there, but nothing is done. No strict regulations that just puts a stop to the same habits that has been going on over the years of self-medication and certain drugs being available to the regular human being.
Unfortunately, if any incidents regarding the medical affairs does not have an Ebola-like effect in terms of immediate death, I doubt that we might move to resolve it.
Thank you.
Right, thank you very much, Devoe. We're moving away to our next story from the ThisDay newspaper. Declare your assets, Afenifere tells Buhari. Now, this was a statement by the leader, Chief Ruben Fasoranti, who said that President Buhari should keep his promise to Nigerians in the document titled "I Pledge to Nigeria," where he made some promises and said amongst that he was going to declare his assets. Now, 4 months to the end of the tenure of his first term, and he hasn't yet done this, and Afenifere is crying out.
Well, let me just read some facts. They said this issue is a moral burden, given the fact that he said that he would, that it comes with who that comes with equity must come with clean hands. Also stating that why is it a case of do as I say but not as I do, given the fact that Buhari said he would do it, but we can see that the CJ and some other issues are being tackled down for not declaring this. Now, I must say that I think at some point Buhari had carried this out. He has made,
I was just about to say that.
yes, he has made his records available to the CCB. Okay, now that's the Bureau, that's the Code of Conduct Bureau.
Yeah.
The issue here is that the public declaration, which is where the Minister of Information came out and said, well, there's no, what's the word? It's not by law.
Yes.
It's not it's not
He's not
illegal that he
bound
hasn't. He's
to.
not bound to.
Yeah.
It's just a moral position. However, I think at the end of the day, I think it spills into the next story. Should we really believe you at the end of the day if you still hold this position? If you remember very well, dearly beloved late President Yar'Adua, that was the first action he took upon his resumption as president. He just let it out there. Boom. So, do we still have men of steel and character that can do such, so that we don't end up in this legal palavas that become wahalas for the country?
But isn't this obvious that the Afenifere is giving this outcry at this time based on, bearing on the fact that in recent times, Buhari has been asking, going after the CJN of the Chief Justice of Nigeria based on his own
They're
declaration as
simply
well.
following his lead.
Mm-hmm.
Muddy the waters in the run-up to the elections and gain an advantage. Solve it.
Well, the difference here is that he's actually declared his assets, in quotes. He's declared his assets to the CCB as it's recommended, but he hasn't done that publicly. All right, unfortunately, we cannot stay on that story as our time is fast spent. We'll go on to this last one from the Daily Times, and like you mentioned, Devoe ties in nicely with our first one. And not very good news for Nigeria in terms of corruption and Transparency International. Apparently, Nigeria is still highly corrupt. The index revealed that Nigeria has neither improved nor progressed in the perception of corruption in the public administration in 2018 due to failure to implement some recommendations.
Yes, in the CPI, that's the Corruption Perception Index, what it recorded as a report was we had neither improved nor progressed, okay? So, where does that place us? In terms of indices, between 2017 and 2018, we scored about 27 points over 100, and we're still at 27 bad students. Now, in terms of ranking, we were 148 in 2017, we're now 104, so we're still carrying last. I wonder what the worried people have to say about that. But this is no surprise because on a daily basis we do see the challenges to this in terms of they've said that 70% of corruption takes place in procurement. We all know what happens in procurement, from federal to the state to the local government. There's just this opaque lack of transparency with government contracts. Secondly, obeying of court laws and orders. We know the Dasuki case. We know the current issue with the legal CJ and etc. and co. We are still begging for upstanding rights Nigerians to make a position. And it's not just about government, it's about you and I. When we break the laws in our everyday lives, we lead and we contribute to this. So
we should hold ourselves accountable.
Yes, there's no surprise that when we become leaders, we only act out what we have been doing on a normal daily basis.
Just to chip in real quick, I need to take a bob in Manchester United. So there's this statement that Manchester United was 6th, Sat Mourinho still 6th, hired Olivier Solskjaer still 6th, one of Peter still 6th. Same thing with Nigeria.
Such an analogy, quite apt though for them. Anyway, we have messages in here. This one is coming from Timothy. Timothy says, just plant and determine. Let's talk about the GMO crops. They say education on how to differentiate should be done even by the concerned parties. Greetings to all in the studio. Akin sent a message. It says, on the drone reviews issue of data, I would like to know if the data captures final consumer data or purchase points. In my opinion, the fact there is that there's a high purchase in the southwest, it does not automatically make us the highest consumers of those stuff.
Have you heard Devoe?
He is speaking in defense of the South.
Data exists. And then this MI here says, in other words, the CPI corruption this index really by Transparency International shows that the more things change, the more they remain the same. Okay, that's his takeaway from that. But thank you very much, gentlemen, for being in the studio with us. Let's talk about Devoe Okorie on social media, and Nnamdi Awa-Kalu, who's joined us today. You can find him up on Twitter as Nnamdi OK.
AK.
All right, thank you very much for that correction.
Nnamdi OK is alright.
Lagos will be coming up next to talk sports inside of the locker room. Stay with us.
The headlines.
They should
The
not
story.